Morning. I think it's almost past 12. So, any one of you have heard of Aruba? Well, I see no raised hands. I would presume you would. Anyone HPE, Hewlett Packard Enterprise? I'm sure many. Aruba, actually, the name as it originates, right? I mean, besides the fact that we have a stall out there, is an island in the Caribbean Sea. And it's known for its high happiness index. It is supposed to be a very serene, small island with a very high happiness index. That's all that we want to deliver. We want to deliver happiness to you, right? Especially to Northeast. We want you to run an infrastructure and get your customer-facing applications delivered to your end happily without any hassles, without any trouble. That's just to set the context on what Aruba is. We are by far and undoubtedly the leading players in India and globally on secured wireless and mobility access. That's what we do. We are small. We are small as in we are a small island within HPE, but we are the glue to the Hewlett Packard's overall perspectives and overall mission to deliver applications, right from the data center to the edge. So we represent the edge of Hewlett Packard. My name is Abir Banerjee. I have been here in this industry for around quarter a century, more from the last century, and that's why, I always feel that if you need to work out here in Northeast, you need to get connected with the geography, the domain, and the cultures of this place, right? And one of the major aspects that I have been seeing, right, because I have been part of many projects in Northeast, right, from the state data centers to the APDRPs, et cetera, the CCTNS projects. One of the challenges that this region has is connectivity and last mile connectivity, right? Whether we like it or not, it's a reality. And then there are areas which are almost inaccessible. What we are trying to deliver today and what we are trying to articulate today is that you can have a very robust data center. It could be lying in some cloud, or it could be in your data center out here in Guwahati. But how are you going to deliver this service right to the edge, right to the end, right? With extremely high uptimes. Because when we talk about last mile connectivity, the downtimes come into play, right? At the end of the day, it's all about serving, delivering experiences, delivering a proper QoS, and delivering a customer experience. That's all that I'm going to talk. Instead of rather going into the depths of technology, because that's something which I don't want to do on a Saturday, we would like to talk about the experiences, something which we can roll into this particular region, right? One of the biggest challenges that we have been saying, and let's do some context setting, is that there is a change. There is a change not in technology, but the change is in cultures. I think we are living in a data-driven digital society, as we all say, right? And therefore, everybody computes, right? Everybody computes. Everybody and everything computes today. Technology is embedded everywhere, and I don't want to get into more details of it. Everyone is connected, and therefore, the last part, everybody will be understood. And if everybody is understood, what's the government really trying to do with this, right? It's all about deep learning. It's all about learning about customer experiences, your end user experiences, getting to know about them, and to a certain extent monetizing them in a proper way. From HPE Aruba, we are here to enable you, not only from a connectivity perspective, not only from giving you a connectivity to the most inaccessible place, but also to help you monetize, which we have been doing, and that's the experience that I will talk. Going forward, let's focus on this, right, for some time, because this is what needs a discussion, right? We are talking about state networks. We are talking about geographical networks. And as we have been all seeing, and we have been talking so heavily about BharatNet, which is to provide access and last mile connectivity right up to the village panchayats and the grams, right? What are we trying to connect on this network? Users, devices, POS machines, digital boards, anything and everything that you would expect from your service centers, right? From the stadiums, from the villages, from the houses, Why? Obviously, with the primary objective of having access to customer and consumer-facing applications, the government EEE applications. From where and when? Anytime, right? I think those days are gone. And if you really do a Gen Z, as we call it, which is not the Gen X typically, right? But people will be accessing applications from anywhere. It could be from mines, it could be from schools, it could be from railway stations, it could be from your office. What are the bigger challenges that you see in this? When we talk about an all-pervasive mobile environment or a wireless connectivity, one is to authenticate. Because your digital authentication is not your physical authentication or identification. How are you able to give a wire-free network all across the state, right to the end village, and ensure that you are in a position to identify and authenticate the last user who is using his mobile phone and getting access to the network? What is the intent of that person? What are the number of times he has accessed? What is his interest levels? That is what we call analytics. And that's what needs to be built into any of the infrastructure that we talk about. But most importantly, another big aspect and big trouble that we have been all facing, right, as we talk about building large networks across the country, is to have the last mile problem, right? You might have today a plethora of options. You might have VSATs, you might have 3G, 4G, etc. Do they offer you the necessary quality of service to run a very extremely heavy video application? The answer is no. Is there a way by which we can do it? Yes, you can do it. And that's where, moving forward, when we talk about this public-private partnership models, right, this build on, operate, and transfer models, monetization and business modeling comes very important, and that's where you need to look at options where it could be delivered from a cloud, or you can use a dedicated infrastructure and deliver it in a cloud model using leases and financial models. One more point which I would like to bring to this, this room is that last mile is one issue, power is another issue. And as we move forward, and I will show you a few examples which we have been doing in the state of Rajasthan, where we have been able to deliver 24/7 power using solar. And solar is something which I think we all need to keep a focus on, because it has increasingly become cheaper, but at the same time it's cleaner and it's accessible and available. If that becomes the context setting to today's discussion, right, let's see where we stand. Another very important aspect, and I think we cannot ignore this device anymore, the smartphone rules. Even when you are building your apps, you're trying to make them mobile ready or smartphone ready. It is the converged productivity device, right? You don't have multiple devices today in your office. Or at least for people like us who have been moving all across the country. For me, my office is everywhere, right? How do you ensure that you are providing connectivity through the mobile without compromising on security? Because this is and will increasingly become a point of topic as and more we discuss about it. And therefore, moving forward, the port has got unplugged, right? We all agree. We don't know where the physical port is. Earlier, people followed the network. Today, network follows people. And that's what is our tagline. You move, we follow. So a few important takeaways, right? The port is unplugged, right? The port is colorless, that's what we say. And the mobile device has become one ubiquitous device that's all pervasive, right? Available everywhere. And this is the reason I wanted to show you what we did in the state of Rajasthan. In the state of Rajasthan, we rode on the statewide area network, and we are providing connectivity right up to the end locations, to the villages. The entire state of Rajasthan through the Department of Information Technology, or RajNet, is something which we have delivered, right? What more? By far, if ever you have to talk about a public hotspot deployment in a city in India, and for that matter, possibly anywhere in the globe, Mumbai would definitely come as one of the leading players out there in terms of its reach, spread, and breadth. We have delivered the Mumbai city public Wi-Fi, and if we have been able to deliver it, I'm sure we'll be able to deliver it here. And as we had moved, and I think especially for the government officials, a few points of words of caution, because it's a very hard way that we had learned when we did this Mumbai hotspot deployment, was that we anticipated for a certain number of devices. But when the network came up, we figured out that it was 3 times. So you need to build a network that needs to scale up and be elastic enough to take care of that much of a volume. What more came up was that a lot of printers came into the play, right? IP-connected printers. And when we speak about printers, and I think it's a very well-kept secret that 2 years back, one of the biggest banks of Bangladesh was actually attacked through a printer port, of all things, because the printer was never being able to profile. And that's what I say, that today's authentication methods, we are able to profile and figure out a laptop or a PC or a mobile. But what about these IoT devices, a CCTV camera, a printer port, very vulnerable to attacks, right? So we need to keep all these points in mind. And moving forward, even in Mumbai, we realized that 50% of the devices were not connecting. And there is obviously that common understanding, right? If that circle rotates, that the network sucks. Does it? A network is as good as the end device, right? So if you have a very proper mobile from Apple or Samsung, it was working because the ability to transmit and receive it could reach, but a 2,000 rupees phone or a 5,000 rupees phone was not being able to cover that coverage area. So these are a few learnings that we had done. And as we speak today, Mumbai Hotspot or Mumbai City Wi-Fi is possibly a reference project that we have done across the country or across the globe in terms of its volume, in terms of its quantity, in terms of its reach, and in terms of the challenges. Another one, because a network is put under the heaviest strain when there is a significant jump in the traffic from 0% to 100% within a few minutes or a few seconds. The largest congregation of people, the Kumbh Mela, right? Just look at the way India is changing, right? Religion and technology are now coming together. That's the beauty, that's the change that we are witnessing in this country, and that's why I say that we are changing cultures, right? It's not technology changes that's happening. Experience in the Ghats, the new digital era, right? Mumbai Chhatrapati CST Airport, right? I think it touches lives of millions daily as they move out or inside the shores of the country. What more? And this is a very interesting project. And I think just keep a note on this, what I'm going to say, is that we all expect stadiums, whether it's government-owned or private-owned, or convention centers for that matter. One of the biggest asks that all of you are facing is that whenever a set of people are coming into a stadium, or into a convention center, or into a fair, a government-run fair, what is your biggest challenge? Your biggest challenge is 2 fronts. One, the criminal history of a person who is coming in, A, and more importantly, you want to figure out who is really coming. They're coming from what age group? They're coming from which part of the state, right? So if you are in a position to figure out and authenticate or identify the users, you will be able to reach out to them, right, for further promotional activities. What we did in a stadium, and for that matter, stadium is a very complex project or convention center, right, where the traffic moves up from 0% to 100% or 120%. And why 120%? Because many of the users or the spectators or audience usually carries 2 devices in their hand, not 1. And what is the expectation? Is to take a picture and then post it on the internet, on the social media. So there is an expectation of a response, of the network response to address his requirement, which addresses your endpoint customer satisfaction. But something more. Today's networks are not about connectivity. That is past, that is gone. Today's networks needs to help you monetize, needs to help you identify your end customers. So what we have done, in our technology, we are in a position to provide Bluetooth connectivity to your mobile phones on your wireless network. We have reached an era where Bluetooth is married to wireless technologies. And if you have a Bluetooth connectivity on a mobile, what you can do, and I'll just show you a very beautiful example on this. What you can do here is that as I move, with my mobile phone, the network recognizes that I'm moving. And therefore, it can help me location tracking. So if I want to move from here to a first floor of this particular hotel, which is inside this, you get an Ola or an Uber-like experience where it says that go 10 meters ahead, turn left, turn right, go up, go down, etc. Very good for retail malls, right? Where it is self-guided location to your destination, to where you want to go to. What's more, because the system knows, because the network knows my location, if I have to order for some food, the food comes to me and I'm not in my location, I would have moved 500 meters away, the people, the system should be able to recognize me that I have moved. So now you are actually creating much more bigger experiences. This goes very well in hospitals. This goes very well in meeting managements. And I'll just show you one example. This is an example for one of the leading stadiums in United States, where the stated objective was to have a tenfold growth in the customer acquisition or customer identification and in their merchandise sale, right? And especially in outside countries, beer sale is a big market, and that's what they wanted. And that is what we have delivered. We did the same thing for the topmost 25 stadiums across the globe, Perth, Melbourne, you name it. And that's what we are trying to do here. As we speak, we are trying to execute this in one of the biggest stadiums in India. And that's what HPE is all about. On one hand, we have the hybrid IT. That's where your application lies. That's where we build you the robust environment, the robust infrastructure, including your data center. And we can deliver data centers on a consumption model, right? On a pay-per-use model. On the other hand, the edge has become very important, because this is the edge where all your mobile phones reside. And if all your mobile phones reside, you need to have a faster execution of the services that you are trying to give. So can you do edge computing? One, and can you create analytical data? Because if you look into this, every mobile phone could generate a small data, but if you multiply with millions, it's a big data. And if it is a big data, if I have to take the entire transport right up to the data center, it's adding to your latency, which you don't want, especially in case of video analytics. You don't want a crime to have happened and the reaction time is 5 seconds. You would expect the reaction time to be sub 1 second, because otherwise, tracking that incident is of no meaning. So that's what we are delivering. We are delivering the hybrid IT on the data center front, and we are delivering the edge. Moving forward on some of those use cases, right? I will just in the want of time, I'll just run you through some of the use cases. And this is the very interesting stuff, which is asset tracking. Gone are the days of RFID-based asset tracking, because that is very retrospective. You need to have real-time location tracking. If you have an asset tag on one of your costly instruments in the office, and if you don't want to make it move by 2 meters, what if it has moved by 10 meters? What if it has moved outside the gate? RFID doesn't help you do it. It is very retrospective. You will come with a sensor or with a recorder, etc. But here, on your mobile, you will get alarms. That's what the wireless network is delivering today, right? That's what we are trying to say. And just to give you an example, which we did for the Andhra Pradesh government, right? For one of the collectorate office, and if you just have a look, this is what you see is actually the mobile screenshot, right? So this was for Vizag, and what we did was that, let's say I want to have a meeting with you. I want to set up so it's a very wonderful way of meeting management and productivity. I want to do a meeting with you, right, in one of your offices. Let's say from today to next Thursday, I want to set up a meeting. So I set up a meeting using this particular portal. Yeah, so using this particular portal, I set up the meeting, right? As I set up the meeting, I give my phone number, et cetera, so that becomes a database for you, by the way, right? You get an OTP verification, right? Which means that you have sort of agreed to the meeting, right? Because you also have to agree that the meeting has to happen. So you reach the citizen home screen. What you see here, as you move, you will be able to see the employee schedule, right? Which means that your schedule, whether you are available on that particular day. So based on your schedule, I will select a time slot. And then that time slot has to be agreed by you. And that is where a meeting gets created. So the meeting has been scheduled successfully. Now, you come to this office, and this is one of the collectorate offices that you see here. You just have to give me the floor plan, and I will put it in my system. And as I put it in my system, and this is completely a network that we are delivering there. So you need to put a completely a wireless network out there. And as you put this wireless network, and as you move into the office, the system, the Bluetooth system or the wireless system will be able to guide you now, right? And especially in government buildings, which are very spread about, right? And with multiple buildings, it becomes very difficult to reach the person if you are not self-guided. So I now self-guide myself to reach to your place. How? This is the way. Turn left, turn right, etc. Step-by-step navigation, right? What we have done here is that now I have been able to reach your place. A few more screens which I have not shown here is that now the meeting happens. I have been able to reach instead of waiting. You do the meeting, you give a rating, I give a rating, right? It's a two-way rating that I give. A very interesting aspect which the government wanted was that at the end of 3 months or at the end of 6 months, they wanted to analyze the total number of meetings that had happened, the outcomes, how many did not happen, how many were refused, how many were cancelled, which in a way also goes forward to analyzing user productivity or user performance. That's an analytical data that we are giving you, right? So that's the beauty of networks. I'm not talking network, because at the end of the day, to deliver this entire outcome, we need a network in place, and that's what I'm giving. And this is a completely a wire-free network, right? I'll not get into too much of the future cities, or we call them future city, by the way. We don't call smart city, because we feel that smart is past, future is autonomous, right? So we call them future cities. And one of the very important aspects, and this is what I have been seeing and saying everywhere, that unless and until the last mile is not addressed, howsoever robust an application that you build in your data center, it will not be able to get you the analytical data that you want. Because at the end of the day, these services are meant for your end users, and you need to capture data of your end user who is accessing this network. And that is why I say the city portal that you are building, whether it's as a service model or a platform service that I'm offering, is to serve the edge. And that, I believe, is possibly one of the biggest challenges that you are all facing, right? How are you going to serve the edge? How are you going to serve a village that is lying in the borders? Okay? And that's where we have been delivering very consistently. Be it the Rajasthan project, be it the Mumbai project, we have delivered it to very, hitherto unknown areas, right, where normal terrestrial lines would not have been able to reach. And this is what Hewlett-Packard Aruba is all about. We call it the software-defined view, right? I'm not going to talk about our boxes, our access points, or switches, or routers, etc., which is common, right, which everybody will be talking about. But all that I want to talk about is that if you need to have a robust connectivity, which you are anyway getting, using any means of connectivity, because you may not get an MPLS network everywhere, right? Can I use the 3G, 4G network and still get the same level of performance, or a nearly the same level of performance using this network? That's where I move forward to one more aspect, that we spoke about monetization, we spoke about connectivity, but as is true with all networks of which are wire-free, right, a perceptual thought is about the security. So when I talk about security, how am I able to offer this security, right? If you look here, the traditional network is about policies and creating network access, right? But what has changed? The things that have changed is IoT, right? Internet of Things have come, the devices have come in. How am I going to give context or contextuality? It is very important that when you have a plethora of edge devices, you need to contextualize, you need to find out its location, where it is, and then authenticate them and profile them, right? That's something new that I'm talking about. In the want of time, just let me move forward to just a couple of slides. We talk about software-defined branches. Very important. We don't say that a software-defined branch, we don't demarcate between software-defined WAN and software-defined branch, because at the end of the day, what you need is to deliver, right, a few things. We call them zero-touch provisioning. Look, hear this word. Why zero-touch provisioning? Because at the edge, I don't want, right, minimal interference of labor to come in, because the moment you have people coming into the edge, right, you have to wait for the person to get a device changed. But because I'm putting the software into the data center and only the infrastructure into the edge, I'm being able to do zero-touch provisioning, no configuration required, everything dynamically done centrally, right? From a cloud or from your data center. We call them zero-touch provisioning, and that's what we call about cloud management. We are talking about gateway monitoring. We are putting security into this. If you look into it, right? A final point here is, having said everything, right, a very important aspect that is coming up today because of this huge number of mobiles and IoT devices is to determine an user behavior. Let me give you an example, right? Usually your time to type a keyboard, time to type your password is, let's say, 1 second or 2 seconds. In the last 6 months, it has been found that on 3 occasions, you have typed your password, it took 30 seconds. Is that a point of concern? It is, right? It is a point of concern. Why? Because why did I take this much of a time? Can the backend system through machine learning be able to help you figure out that, yes, was your system compromised? Or for that matter, a system administrator logs into the system 4 times in a day from 3 different cities. How is that possible, right? We call it land speed testing. Right? We are saying that based on your behavioral usage, right, on your behavior, I will profile you and give you a risk rating. And if you're moving from your abnormal behavior, we believe that it is a point of concern and it's a security threat. So we are bringing artificial intelligence and machine learning to determine security threats. And if it is a security threat, then my own product called ClearPass, which does the authentication, will be able to block you or will be able to raise an escalation, right? So that's specifically what we have been talking, right? And this is what Aruba offers, right? And this is how we have been offering, right? Wayfinding, location tracking, security, secured wireless, mobility, switching, the data center networks, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a completely and pervasive solution that we are talking about, right? And as we move about, I think you cannot ignore this IoT term, right? Be it your CCTVs. For that matter, CCTV itself is a physical device meant to secure you, but it is one of the most vulnerable devices when it comes to its own security. And many of the DDoS attacks have actually happened through cameras. Can I profile if there's an attack? And as I told you, unless you didn't bring contextuality to this whole authentication mechanism, me when I'm accessing from a railway station and me when I'm accessing from the office are actually 2 different entities, because behaviorally I'm 2 different persons, right? So bring contextuality to authentication, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. And that is where you can bring intelligence to this whole network, right? A few examples. Having said that, I just wanted to keep this slide for the last. Hewlett-Packard, along with obviously one of our nearest competition, have been in this, for the last 12 years, we have been in the Gartner's Leaders Quadrant. But most importantly, Gartner rated 6 separate sets, right? Wired environment, wired and wireless environment, wireless network, right? Remote office branch connectivity, performance stringent application, and the ability to support multi-vendor networking, right? With the best of the breed solution. If you would have seen, this is Gartner's acknowledgement, but they rated us highest, right? And that's possibly the reason that we are #1 in the country. We are possibly one of the biggest players in the wireless space across the globe. So thank you so much.